All right, Thrive Nation, on today's edition of the Thrive Time Show, we're interviewing the CEO of Paddleboards. You might have seen him on Shark Tank there. He was chosen by Mark Cuban to be the company that he invested in. Yes. The company is called Paddleboards. Now, Aaron, paddleboards are not, they're not synonymous. They're not the same thing as waterboards, correct?
As far as I know, I think we should probably look into it. But
I have audio real quick of a paddleboard being used. Do you want to hear what it sounds like when a paddleboard is used?
Yeah, I think that'd be good, just so we know what we're going to be interviewing about.
Let me cue up this first clip, and you tell me whether this is in fact the paddleboard, aka waterboard, that our good friend here, today's guest, has created and marketed and sold. Tell me if this is the right audio clip.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, sir. May I have another? Thank you, sir. May I have another? Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Aaron, it might have been a swing and a miss. Now, let me keep the next audio of our today's. This is audio of a paddleboard and a waterboard in action. Tell me if this audio clip sounds a little more accurate.
Okay.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, it's beautiful. Wow. Folks, if you're out there and you're wanting to try out a paddleboard, you want to learn more about his company, his name is Stephan Arstal. Is that right? Is it Arstal?
I think we need to have him clarify that.
Why don't we do that?
Do you want to make a bet on it?
We have kind of a bet going. Is it Arstal? Arstal. Is it Arstal? Is it Arstal? Folks, there's a lot of debate about today's guest.
Yeah.
His name's Stephan. His last name is spelled Aarstol. You can make a bet right now. What's the proper pronunciation of today's guest's last name? Aaron, also today's guest, he decided to take an experiment, to engage in an experiment to see what would happen if he created a work environment where his employees could enjoy a 5-hour workday.
That's crazy.
And it turns out after further review, the 5-hour workday experiment did not work well. And so he joins us on today's show to share what he learned while attempting to implement a 5-hour workday.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrive Time Show.
Now, 3, 2, 1, here we go!
Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here.
Yes, and yes! Thrive Nation, on today's show, we're going to have an incredible conversation with the man who has been on Shark Tank. He was a Shark Tank winner. He's the CEO of Paddleboards, which is a company that was invested in by Mark Cuban from the Shark Tank show. And he's here to talk to us today about why the 5-hour workday experiment failed and many, many more things. Stephan, welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
Good. Thanks for having me on, Clay.
Hey, I want to settle the score here. I want to settle the situation because a lot of our listeners are debating right now online how to pronounce your last name. And we got to settle it right now. Aaron and I we've bet some meat on it from there's a beautiful barbecue place nearby.
Oh yeah,
Burn Co. We bet some meat on it. So will you clarify the pronunciation of your last name to see if Aaron wins the barbecue or if I win the barbecue?
And it is jalapeno cheese sausage.
This is true.
It's like really important.
Okay.
It's high stakes. So it's Norwegian. The double A gets people. It's Arstal.
Aaron wins.
Oh God, yes. So good.
So now that we have that, the dramatic situation taken care of.
Yeah.
Let's talk about you've had a ton of success, but where did you grow up? Where did it all start for you, sir?
I grew up in a place called Bellingham, Washington. So it's above Seattle. It's kind of between Seattle and Vancouver, Canada.
And so how did you go from there to the Shark Tank?
It was a long path. So, I mean, the reason we got on Shark Tank, honestly, is they just called us out of the blue one day. I had started a paddleboard company, Tower Paddleboards, in 2010, selling like direct-to-consumer paddleboards. And, we're sort of an SEO company, search engine optimization. So we were at the top of the search engines. And the producers were looking for a paddleboard company to be on the show because it was kind of the trending thing at that time. In 2011 is when they filmed it. So they just called us out of the blue. I'd never even heard of the show. And, 5 weeks later, I was up there pitching.
Now, we are in a hyper, Aaron, this politically correct culture right now. People are getting worried about this. Yeah. When you say paddleboard, that's not a cousin of the waterboard, correct, sir?
No. That's what my mom calls it, actually, is waterboarding. It took her
Oh.
about 5 years in the business to understand it was a paddleboard, though. So
Can you
that's
explain
common.
what the paddleboard is used for other than the disciplining of children?
Yeah, so it's a stand-up paddleboard. It's like a big surfboard, oversized surfboard.
Okay.
They're 12 feet long, and you stand up and you can surf with it. But then you can also use them on rivers and lakes, kind of like a kayak that you stand up on. So it's actually a much bigger market than just surfing.
Is there a lot of paddleboarders up there in the Seattle region?
There are. I'm in San Diego though now. I came down here to grad school, and I've been down here the last 20 years. But Seattle is for sure a pretty big market for us. A lot of outdoorsy people up there.
Yeah.
And a lot of the areas of the country wherever there's lakes, and that's sort of our big market.
What was it like to have a Mark Cuban as an investor mentor guy? Did you find yourself going to a disproportionately large number of Mavericks games, or what was that like?
Yeah, so I'm known as the worst pitch in the history of Shark Tank, but
Oh.
still landed a deal. So when I went on there, I forgot my pitch. My slideshow screwed up. I was silent. I got called like a nerd, a leprechaun. And then Cuban invested, and he invested $150,000 for 30% of the company. And the other sharks were laughing at him, right, as if he had just way overpaid for this company that had no intellectual property or anything. They had no chance in the paddleboard market. Since then, we've done over $40 million in sales. So working with Cuban has actually been, very, valuable to us. At the time of the pitch, we had maybe $100,000 in lifetime sales, and we went from being sort of a nothing, nobody paddleboard company to basically like the Mark Cuban paddleboard company. And we were able to leverage that from a media perspective, with being on the show.
And I'm not asking you to share anything that you can't share. So I'm just asking them, when you have a Shark Tank investor, do you just like split profits at the end of the year? Do you split it quarterly? Do you meet up on Tuesdays for coffee and say, 30% goes to you? How do you do that?
Well, it's depending on how they invest, right, and how the company is set up. So because he bought 30%, and we're set up as like an LLC, and my salary, part of the negotiation was my salary was limited to like $60,000 a year for the first, until I paid him back his money, basically, his $150,000 investment. So whenever I wanted to take money beyond that basic salary, just, to live off of, every, $100 that came out, he would get 30, I would get 70. So basically that's what we did for the first, 7 or 8 years of the business. And that's why we're his best investment, because we were basically a cash machine to him. So I would take, $100,000 out, send him 30. And, because when I had to pay my taxes every year, take money out, pay him. So it forced money out of the company. So we've cashed him out well over $1 million.
Have you, through your time spent with Mark Cuban, have you ever run into Dennis Rodman?
No.
Nope.
I haven't. Cuban has been out here a couple times. One time to film for like a follow-up show to Shark Tank. It was called Beyond the Tank.
Yep.
And he came down here, and he took like the whole company. We went out to drinks with him, downtown. And then other than that, I saw him up on the Shark Tank set after we launched a new company called Tower Electric Bikes. And so we brought the bike up there, had him run out, do a couple quick pictures, and then go back to his show. This was just, a year ago. But other than that, all the communication is email. I don't even have his phone number, but he responds to email like surprisingly, like in the middle of the night, in 10 minutes, he'll respond. It's pretty amazing.
Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get into not that Satan needs an advocate. I'm just saying I'm going to be kind of the devil's advocate about what you decided to do with your career. And please feel free to correct me if anything that I'm saying is incorrect, sir. My understanding is after appearing on the Shark Tank and having the success growing the company, you had the hypothesis that perhaps a 5-hour workday would be the move. Is that correct, sir? Was that your hypothesis? Well, how am I getting that wrong?
Yeah. And really the reason I did that is, I felt that if I basically renegotiated with labor and I gave a 5-hour workday, but sort of paid the same as we always have been doing, we would be able to attract all the best workers in San Diego to come work at our company. And once they were here, they wouldn't leave. That was the hypothesis.
And did that work well?
That part of it didn't. some stuff of the 5-hour workday worked really well. Like it basically created a company culture of identifying and using productivity tools. So we became really focused around that. And I don't think our productivity fell off at all, to be honest. You know, the year that we rolled it out, we increased revenues by 50%. Some other things happened, you know, the following years. We were level for a couple of years and came down a little, but that's just the ups and downs of businesses. But the thing that really didn't work, about 2 years into it, I had 4 employees out of my staff of 9 leave within a 90-day period. And it was like this mass exodus. And I'm like, what is going on here? These are young kids making good money with a 5-hour workday, and they're leaving the company. And so that's where I kind of decided that, you know, either the 5-hour workday doesn't motivate them to stay, or they just, I don't know, got used to it. I don't know. It didn't work. It didn't work to retain them and attract them. We were still getting about the same level of people that we got before. So at that point, we got rid of it, and we went to summers only, where we do 4 months in the summer as a 5-hour workday. And we did that hybrid model because I like the benefits of sort of creating a productivity-focused company. But then in the off season, we would go to, like, you know, a startup culture, I guess, working, you know, the long hours. And I think we broke some of the company culture when we did that too, when we moved to the 5-hour workday.
Now, Aaron Antis here, he runs Oklahoma's largest home building company. James is an attorney who could sue anybody at any time. And then we have Craig Hagan here. He's a pastor from Rhema Church. And we want to really get into some questions about this 5-hour workday hypothesis. Now, my understanding is you've taken what you've learned about the 5-hour work week and put it into a book. Is that correct, sir? And tell us about this book.
Yeah, about a year into it. You know, we started the 5-hour workday in 2015, I think in May, and then about a year and a half into it, we wrote a book. I was writing articles in certain magazines, you know, online, and I would, you know, just occasionally write about what we're doing as, you know, entrepreneurs and stuff like that. And then when I wrote about this experiment we were doing, all of a sudden we got like, you know, 10,000 social shares on this one article, and usually I would get like 20, right? And so it really resonated with people. So we thought we'd write a book, sort of saying, here's the experiment we're doing. And then we stuffed one in every paddleboard package that we sent out. You know, we never sold a lot of books, but, you know, we did a press tour with it, and we got the message out there, and it's really spread around the world. I mean, now the concept has been in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, you know, and, you know, some success, some failures.
Now, before Aaron begins to interrogate you, and then James, and then Craig, if you could go back and tell yourself, your younger version of yourself, advice as it relates to retaining employees. Because I'll just give you an example. Let me give you an example. This is hot and fresh. This is new. This is a pretty new example. I've got an employee with one of my companies making more money than they've ever made in their entire life. Ever. Person dates person of opposite sex, immediately says it's time to move on. Because the person of the opposite sex says it's time to move on. No, seriously.
You mean leave the company, leave where you work?
Yeah.
Okay. Or there.
Yeah, and I talked to the person. I said, you know, hey, so you've been here for a long time. You're making more money than you've ever made. You're working less than you've ever made, than you've ever worked because you know through a promotion. So what's motivating you to move? And the person says, well, the person of the opposite sex has told me that I think that you need to move on. And I'm going, well, based upon the fact that you're probably having sex, that makes sense to me.
Very qualified, right?
No. I mean that's where the logic's coming from. There's a certain infatuation going on. Mm-hmm. I'm serious.
Yeah.
And so that's the words I said. I said, based upon the fact that you're having sex with the person of the opposite sex, and based upon that you've known this person for several maybe days or weeks, this sort of non-logic doesn't make sense in terms of like long term, but short term, I understand. I don't maybe agree. I'm not saying I endorse this. I'm just saying, but I grasp the logic. And then I said, is this the logic? And they go, yeah, that's the logic. I said, so are we going to see you back again? And the person says, yeah, strong possibility. And I've seen this happen a lot. And I don't care whether it's a 5-hour work week or a 6-hour, because in our office it's a 4-day work week from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Ghost Town, Friday up here, Saturday, Sunday. No one works Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. That's the work schedule up here. people brag to their friends about it. But it seems like people have a certain expiration date. They get to a place where they want to move on. So I want to ask you there, sir, in your mind, if you could go back and maybe coach yourself or listeners out there about in retention and keeping people, do you agree with the LinkedIn philosophy there of Reid Hoffman that people have a certain expiration date, a certain tour of duty? Do you have your own philosophy to retaining people now, or what would you tell a younger version of yourself?
I've never heard the expiration date theory. I suppose that holds some weight, but what I really think is sort of interesting in the modern world, I think we're just in a very soft and luxurious time of history where people honestly don't care about whether they work, a 5-hour workday or they go work, 100 hours a week at Tesla.
Yeah.
And they don't care whether you pay them, I could start some people at 35,000. Now we start them at 50,000. Or if in 2 years I pay them 80,000. Money doesn't matter to them. The hours they work doesn't matter to them. They want to have alignment with the company, which sounds to me like an extraordinary luxury to base your decisions on that. I think we're in good times right now, and I think that really is what my takeaway from this is that the hours don't work, but it really was about alignment with the company culture.
Yeah.
And that's why we broke the company culture when we went away from being a startup. And, and honestly, a lot of the people that did leave, they left because they got into relationships. When you're walking out at 1 o'clock every day, work just becomes this thing you do before lunch, and the rest of your life actually gets much bigger, which is great for the employees. And, I applaud that. And that was half of this experiment, was giving them their life back. But I was also looking at this as a capitalist. I wanted to get the best employees and keep them, for as long as I could. And that part didn't work.
Aaron Antis, I want to get your take on this because this is a funny segue here. You'll appreciate this, Stephan. Aaron has a company called ShawHomes.com, which is the largest home building company in our state. And a lot of employees who work for me say, Clay, I want to go work for Shaw Homes. And I say, you know what? I'll refer you right over there today. And I just want you to be clear, Aaron, the hours at Shaw Homes are what? Because you sell homes.
Yeah, our model homes are open from noon to 6, so it's 6 hours, 5 days a week, but Sunday it's 1 to 5.
And I say, so here you go, dude, young man, young woman, whoever you are, middle-aged, old person, whoever works here. I said, you want to go work there, you can make $100,000 a year easily.
Easily.
You just got to work these hours. And they go, oh, absolutely. Yeah, I go, so you're going to go work those hours. And then they go, wait a minute. I have to work these hours? I can't do that. I'm serious.
It's true.
And I agree with what he just said. It's not about the pay.
No.
And a lot of times it's about the hours.
That's right.
Aaron, what question do you have for Stephan? And maybe if we have time, we can get into the deep, dark secrets of what a paddleboard really is. You know what they want? They don't want you to know about the connection between paddleboards and waterboards. Both are boards in the water, if you know what they mean.
Yeah, I mean, I was honestly, when you first said paddleboards and 12 foot long, I was thinking, none of my kids are 24 feet tall. I wouldn't need a 12 foot. You have shorter ones.
Don't touch your sister again.
But
12 foot.
Anyways, no, my question is, you kind of touched on that you realized it wasn't the number of hours they work. It's not how much money they make. Yeah. Many of the people who come work for us, they all pretty much make more money than they've ever made before. And then they all of a sudden decide they want to leave. And it's really surprising to me when that happens, because I'm like, we're paying you a lot of money. So you said it's whether they line up or link with what you're doing. So what have you tried to do?
Physical chaining is what he's saying. You chain them.
How have you tried to get the things that they line up with to get people to stay, or have you given up on getting people to stay long term at this point?
Well, no, I haven't given up on it. But I think, initially when we hire, because we're it's kind of a technology company, because we're like an e-commerce company, internet marketing. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the stuff we're doing is, new stuff. So I tend to hire people right out of college, no experience. I don't want experience. I want somebody who doesn't know anything but is in learning mode and is willing to say, well, I don't know anything, but I'll, dive into this and become an expert in 6 months on this.
Me too.
So that's what we've always done.
Yeah.
But the problem is, I need to get those people that are also, when we have the paddleboard company, that are into surfing and outdoors and stuff like that. So they really just identify with the company, right? And now we have Tower Electric Bikes. It's a direct-to-consumer like e-bike company. Now I'm getting people, I want those new kids, but have you worked in a bike shop or something like that?
So you're
And not so much for the experience, but just because they identify if they're like bike nuts, right? That's what you have to do.
So it's sort of like a Jeff Spicoli kind of a Fast Times at Ridgemont High kind of a guy where he's like, all I need is some tasty waves and a cool buzz, bro.
Real quick, Stephan.
Exactly. That high school is right up the street here, Claremont High School.
Perfect.
Where that movie was based on.
That is
Stephan,
great.
I want to point this out here. This is probably not ethical. I say probably, definitely is not ethical. What I did to prepare for this interview, Stephan, I wanted to get myself really ready to go. And so I decided to do, my mic's going up and down the volume there. It's exciting. So what I decided to do is I went into his office there. Let me switch mics here. Yes. Okay. So I went into his office. I put a mic there, and I recorded an interview with someone who turned out not to be a good fit. But I went ahead without asking. I apologize.
And this is without his permission, Clay?
Yeah, this is how you build rapport.
Okay.
So I put a mic in there, and this is the audio of one of the interviews. He asked the guy, why do you think you'd be a good fit? The guy wasn't a good fit, but he was close to a good fit. And so here we go. Let me cue it up here. Let me get it.
Just like you pull in and you just get spit right out of them. And you just drop in and just smack the lip. Whoop-ah! Drop down. Snap. Ah! And then after that, you just drop in, you just ride the barrel and get pitted. So pitted like that.
I'm not sure
What did he just say?
Oh, no, my friend of mine, Nick Lamb, was telling me about this guy. This guy was being interviewed by a mainstream media outlet. He's a surfer, and he knew the mainstream media would put a mic in front of him, and he knew that if he could just hop into the stereotype of a surfer, that he would get national coverage. So they asked him tell us about your last run, and this is what he said.
You get the best barrels ever, dude. Just like you pull in and you just get spit right out of them. And you just drop in and just smack the lip. Whoop-ah! Drop down. Snap. Ah! And then after that, you just drop in, you just ride the barrel and get pitted. So pitted like that.
And so that made national news. So, okay, I don't know why he wouldn't be a good fit for you. Okay, now James, what question do you have for today's incredible guest?
I just want to kind of ask a question that dovetails with what Aaron was talking about, and it's the values thing that I kind of got, hooked into anyway with what you were saying earlier. Now, Clay has this thing. He says, the business exists to serve you, right? It doesn't exist to serve anybody else, but it exists to serve you. Now, when you mentioned something about these employees wanting to align their values with the value of the company, I mean, how does that kind of intersect with the company's core values? Are you changing the company's core values to accommodate these employees, or you didn't? What did you mean when you said kind of broke the culture of the company?
Oh, okay. So when I was talking about breaking the company culture, it was we were a startup where you're sort of hard charging and you're kind of working in the trenches alongside one another. And in companies like that, you tend to form like really strong bonds with everybody you work with because you're kind of working all the time, right? Like it's like you're going to war together.
Right.
When you're walking out the door at 1 o'clock, the outside life becomes much bigger, and work is just this thing you do before lunch, right? And so we broke those bonds. And I think when I saw like 4 of the 9 people leave the company, I'm like, well, why are they leaving the company? Because people typically, I don't think they leave companies. They could care less about the company. They sort of are leaving the people they work with. And if you have really good friends or whatever, it's hard to leave that company, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's how we broke the company culture. Their outside lives became better. But of course, that's a good thing. Their outside lives became better. But I was trying to get a model here of work that addressed the company's needs and the employees' needs. And that's why we're doing this hybrid thing now.
If people want to learn more about you or your products, your service, or where's the best resource? Where's the best website for people to go to?
Yeah, so all our social media is at Tower Beach Club. And then you can go to towerpaddleboards.com or towerelectricbikes.com. We're a small company. You can reach out to anybody if you want to reach me. Just our contact information's on there. So we're pretty easy to reach.
Brother,
if you're interested in the 5-Hour Workday book on Amazon, just look for 5-Hour Workday.
5-Hour Workday is the name of the book on Amazon. Again, the book is called 5-Hour Workday, sir, on Amazon?
Yep.
Aaron, you win the bet. You won the meat bet, and you won the bet for pronouncing his name properly.
I did.
And I congratulate you for
Thank
that,
you,
my
sir.
friend. What kind of a sausage do you prefer over there at Burnco?
The jalapeno cheddar stuffed. It's a little spicy, a little cheesy, with some good sauce.
That stuff will give you the meat sweats.
It has in the past, but I took
good
some
stuff.
of my pills today, so I should be good.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, folks. Aaron Antis won the pronunciation challenge. And if you want to check out today's author online, you can learn more about him and his book on Amazon.com. And now, without any further ado, we'd like to end each and every show with a boom. And so here we go. 3, 2, 1, boom!